Feel like popping the cork on this thing?
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Burke, who has probably the second greatest guitar pun of all time, right behind my original one. But yeah, uh, so where to start? So I really had you on to like kind of get back in the swing of things on back during the pandemic when everybody came home and they were working in their shops. Everybody was forced to really think about small spaces and how to get a lot of done and make a living in a small space. And we kind of moved away from that. But even after the pandemic has ended, I think for a lot of reasons, small spaces still make a lot of sense, and they certainly make a lot of sense where you're at. Can you tell us a little bit about? Can you just give us a brief overview of your business and your space?
I'll
Does that
tell you
sound like a
what.
good?
I'll start off. I'll show you the space because it's that
Okay.
small. So this is literally the entirety of the workshop. So we
Yeah.
have where I was just sitting there. I kind of come around the
Hold, hold,
side.
hold on one second. I'm gonna spotlight you just so I don't get it. Oh, I got the wrong spotlight. There's Dan. Okay, there we
Okay.
go.
So
The
yes, this
spotlight,
is
man.
it. We are in one room, right in the middle of London. We've got the tool wall. Pardon me if I'm going too fast. I'll try and go a little slower here. Yeah, there's a second bench over there. That's the door out of the workshop. Parts and pieces, bits, and that's it. The only other
Okay,
thing
so
I've got is a small area in the back where I have the storage.
aha. Okay, good.
So
So
we've got a bunch of bits here and a bunch of bits over here.
what about bathroom? Do you share a bathroom with the building or?
Yes, there's a bathroom in the building, so we just share that with. I don't know if you're familiar with Denmark Street at all. It's a lot of guitar and musical instrument shops.
So
So
I watched a TV show a while back that I think had footage from that street. I can't
mhm,
remember what it was. It was like a detective drama or something, but I remember thinking I bet that.
Strike.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Is that it?
yeah, that's
So
next door.
so can we see Stairway to Heaven, Kevin signage in that TV show?
Unfortunately, not.
No?
We have to. Yeah, they shoot. Actually, I guess it's off topic, but they shoot a lot of films and TV shows around here, so they give us
Yeah.
advance notice. And yeah, like I can't have the stuff switched on.
Okay.
Um, what was the last one they did? It was the Sex Pistols biopic by Danny Boyle, where they came and they dressed up all the shops out front like the 1970s, so they were still the same shops but with different frontage, and they tried to make it look, I guess, 1970s ish.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, they're a little bit strict on that one, but they did shoot a bunch of stuff in the stair. It was fun. It's interesting.
Yeah. So that's happening right outside. Is it always fun or is it sometimes like, come on, people, I gotta get people through the front door, like,
Usually it's okay.
okay.
Occasionally, if there's a really big film, they get a bit arsy about it. But
Uh-huh.
the shot, what was it? um, the last James Bond. They did some James Bond stuff at the end of the street,
Mhm.
but they closed everything and they were absolutely kind of unforgiving with anyone in that sort of sense. But you do get snagged with that. I'll tell you, I got more problems with like local government than I do with film crews and things like that, though.
So it is crazy there. I mean, London's it's not like you're out in the country or anything, and I can imagine like there's regulations upon regulations upon regulations there.
Yeah.
How how close to the wire are you on anything? Is it all pretty, is it always in flux? Like, is it always changing or is it?
Well, there's an expression. I don't know if you have this in the States. You ever heard of chiseling someone?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, everybody's trying to break off a piece. So you do have to kind of be on your guard with that. The two biggest issues we have, certainly in any built-up place like this, is going to be, funny enough, waste collection, and I think you call it EPA in the United States, like
Yeah,
environmental regulations. So,
yeah,
for example, one huge limitation I have here that I cannot get around is spray booths.
yeah.
They will not let me set up any kind of spray booth, extractor system, nothing. You show up with that. I think the last person to try to do it was probably at least 10 years ago. And I think it was a matter of maybe within a couple of weeks, they were in, they're like, no, shut it down.
So
That was
on that street, like I mean, there's a lot of guitar shops. Are there other guys looting there, or is it just
yeah.
you?
There is the several people here. I don't know, is anyone there familiar with the Vintage Instrument Workshop, Gerald's place?
Yep.
Yeah. I've worked with Gerald before. Top dude, great guy, great little shop. I like those guys. There's been a few people coming and going, but if I'm honest, quite pertinent to this conversation, many people have been at this point now chased away.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest thing to turn around, and anywhere where you need a business that's going to be, I guess, to survive, have high turnover and remain liquid enough to keep going. That has been, I think, a huge challenge for a lot of people.
What
Um,
about
gone.
what about so have you spent most of your life in London, or did you move to London to seek fame and fortune?
What is it? Actually, I moved here more for music back when I played the guitar more often. I don't play so much these days, but
Uh,
that was more the case. But that's 22 years ago now.
yeah, so you're assimilated at this point.
Pretty good at this point. I was in Scotland before that, and
Uh,
as much as I enjoyed it, there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough, I guess, industry either to support both playing as a career
uh,
or necessarily to do this. Not that it's impossible. I mean, there are obviously Luths in Scotland doing this kind of thing, but to keep it regular enough and flowing enough can be a bit of a challenge. Actually, to be fair, most of the guys I know doing it in Scotland are builders as opposed to repairs and restoration, which is great. I think if you're building guitars, being in the middle of nowhere is kind of beneficial. I mean, you're in a barn in Norwich or you're somewhere outside Aberdeen, that's fine, because you're taking your products to another place that has the foot traffic and the footfall that you need in order to make a sale. If you're doing repairs, it's a lot harder to do, I've found in my experience. Even people who have moved from London have in what I found struggled. There's a place here called Hebden Bridge, which is, I guess, what's about 50, 60 miles from Leeds, which is probably the closest major sort of place. Um, and he struggles. He was struggling. He actually opened up a satellite workshop in Leeds that he would share 2 days a week, just in order to kind of get things flowing back and forth. So I guess that's probably the two sides of the same coin on that one.
yeah, that's good stuff. The what about personality types there in London? Like my first experience of Lutheran in a big city was New York City, and I was like, like I was over in Brooklyn when Brooklyn was they were kind of having a tug of war with gentrification, and
Okay.
like a lot of my customers were like basically on the edge of getting kicked out of there. If we're going to
Yeah.
be honest, like they were kind of economically being pushed out, so everybody was like stressed, and it seemed like manners were like like a normal set of manners that you might encounter in more relaxed areas of the country were not being observed one third of the time, I would say, and my experience in New York City. What what's it like in London? Always the best behavior, or
I would say almost identical to what you've just described.
yeah,
People
um,
are very pushed to their absolute limit. It doesn't matter if they're in music or not. I
mhm.
think I would say, in all honesty, probably I would say half or maybe almost half of my clientele are not working musicians. So they work anything from a legal profession to I don't know, a kitchen or a whole variety of places. And I do have that kind of universal. I don't know if it's a big city thing, but people are very go 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 go. They're very edgy. They're very tense, and they can be challenging at times.
Hmm.
Well, between challenging or maybe completely off the rocker. You do
Yeah.
have that. So, and I think geographically, of course, being in the middle of a city, you are going to get a percentage of that, regardless. I think wherever you.
So the name is Stairway to Kevin.
Yeah,
which I think means that there must be a stairway involved. So you're you're by appointment only, right? Is there a door between the stairway and where
two
you're at too? Like,
two doors, the downstairs door and the upstairs
so
door.
they got to make it past two doors to like to cold call you without an appointment. That's good.
Yeah,
So
I don't
uh
take them,
yeah,
and unless I mean I there is I suppose a certain amount of discretion there, but it's not even necessarily a choice. I can't.
yeah.
I can't see people without an appointment. There is simply no time. And in terms of what you're talking about with people getting stressed, that is something that happens. There was a gentleman who somehow, I guess someone must have been leaving the building. This was on Thursday, and he just got in the door, came in while I was with the client, and just simply marched up and started asking questions. And I said, look,
Uh
you're going to have to. Can you come back in a bit? Like, there's the next gap, I think was in about an hour and 15 minutes that I could schedule in there, something like that. No, he was adamant, called me a few names, said something about it being for an orchestra.
ooh.
It's just like
So he had those big city sensibilities about him, huh? I
very much
see.
so. Yeah.
The it's just great. So uh your check-in procedure and your scheduling, I was really interested in that. One of the things that is always interesting to me is when I was working in Brooklyn and I had, people coming in off the street and stuff, we really needed to have like a barrier between the repair area and the check-in area, because if you didn't, like, people, it was surprising what people would do. Like they'd pick up tools. What's this do? You poke their eye out.
Oh yeah, they
But
start touching stuff and walking
yeah,
around and looking at the yep.
so no check-in area there.
No.
But you have somebody come straight in, and you're also sharing the space with another person. So if do you have to make things clear, like you can't show up with an entourage? Like, do people
Yeah.
ever show up with like
There are certain
the
stipulations. So the way I actually break it down is what I do is I do appointment days and work days.
Mhm.
So this entire space, 3 days a week, is when I do, say, the admin side of things. So I'll do appointments on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays where people can drop things off, pick things up. I can deal with them one on one. And then, so I have a limit to the amount of people who are going to be in here, what time. So people aren't kind of hanging around and wandering about and picking things up and touching things they shouldn't be. It also means that I can dedicate and focus on either helping people or working on their equipment. So I'm not constantly back and forth. Many, many years ago, that is exactly something that became an issue, where you'd have people just coming in, nothing happens for 3 hours and then 15 people show up. I can't get 15 people in here. I mean, it was a different location then, but it's same kind of size. Everything in London is tiny. Um, so yeah, breaking it down in that kind of way really, really helps in terms of just keeping it organized, but also keeping people on track as well. And I am pretty ruthless about it. There is those appointment days, I'd see anywhere from usually 22 to 24 different people. They get a 15-minute appointment each. They have to be there. If they're not there, I don't see you.
yeah, that sounds like a lot of other professions that we might interact with, like doctors and stuff
Exactly.
like that. You're not there, hey, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. I
um
apologize. Sometimes I could be. I'm not gripped in iron. I will. There's a little bit of room. I will always try and be a little bit accepting or moving,
yeah,
but often I can't.
you can't.
Yeah.
So how so this sounds like high volume. Like, how many guitars a year are you putting through the shop, do you think? I'm mostly asking because
God bless.
Evan Gluck in New York City, he puts a tremendous amount of guitars through his shop.
Well,
I
at
think like
this point, when it was, so we're first week of March, so we've been almost been open for 2 months now.
uh
I think somewhere between 240 and 250
uh
so far this year.
that's
Um,
like that's like 239 or 249 more than I've got through my shop in the same amount of time.
it's and by the way, like these aren't all massive restorations, of course. Some of them are simple electronics repairs and little
Yeah.
bits and pieces. This is just what's actually hitting the bench and coming in and out, which is how I measure it. I try and measure the time versus what I charge. Appointments do require a deposit. That helps out a lot in terms of weeding out people who are either time wasters or not interested, or
Yeah.
you get people who just want to, as I'm sure you all probably have experienced this, people who want to wander in and ask you questions about a guitar they
Uh-huh.
used to own 20 years ago or something
Uh-huh.
like this. And it is a deposit, so it is actually deducted from the work. But it means that if you show other people that your time accounts for something, it has value, then I think people will then treat it that way. And that's been pretty successful.
What so what's your how do you handle all this from a technical standpoint? Are people checking in online? Is it automated on your website? Are you
The
pencil
appointment
and
system is
paper?
automated, but everything that comes in here, I have to go through myself.
Yeah.
So when someone shows up, I mean, I do have spreadsheets, booking in forms, a lot of sort of preset forms and things that I use. I do use online appointments software, which is tied in to my website, so people can ideally handle all that themselves. These are human beings we're talking about. Some people need some help, but usually that's fine. They see what they need, they go in, they book some time. We come and try and determine. It's very brief, but we try and determine what they're looking for. Which could be they might be asking for something, but actually needing something else. It gives me a chance to sort of, I guess, yeah, find out what they want, find out what the guitar is like, which is obviously very important, and then try and get, I guess, a good idea of how this is going to come together. But then also it helps manage expectations both on time frame and what they can deliver. Like if somebody comes in and wants slammed action on a Squire Affinity, maybe not. And by actually showing that with them here, that's something that I thought about changing, but I don't think I will, because actually that is probably the most valuable thing, to be able to interact with someone and show them directly. If you don't do that, I find that then you're going to have a dozen emails back and forth. People don't understand what's happening. I actually do both drop off and collection appointments. So if you're dropping something in, we can do all that sort of. When they come in to pick it up, um, I have another 15 minutes where they can actually try the guitar out. Gives me a chance to see if they're happy with what's going on. If it is actually what they want, I might make some fine tuning or adjustments. Once I can see somebody actually play the guitar, that's hugely beneficial. I say, oh, all right, we need to actually do this and this and this. And it sounds like a longer process. But what I've found over the years is that by doing that, it actually cuts down on the amount of, I guess, bullshit that goes around it. You know,
Hmm.
all the extra emails, extra talking, extra messages, somebody coming back in and out 2 or 3 times. Um, you just kind of done and dusted. And then
Yeah.
that's it. They know what to expect. They know what they're getting. They can see they've got it. You can show them and demonstrate what's happening. They leave happy.
How do you that's really good. How do you manage like with the space? How do you keep track of like how many guitars you can have in queue at the same time? Do you open and close your books, or are you just
I
like
do.
constantly bringing stuff in?
No, I do open and close the books. One of the nice things about the software that I use is I do have the capacity to close the books on certain days. So depending on how much I've got in, I may close the books further ahead or shorter. I may wait until there's a certain amount of jobs, and I can see what they are. People are required to fill in at least a brief synopsis of what they're looking for. So if I've got 10 jobs booked in and they're all changing the jack on a Strat versus major work, I may choose to keep the books open or closed depending on that, which I think has actually been really, really helpful. So if I'm looking through, I'm just like, okay, I've got X amount of jobs coming in today. What are they? Oh, okay, right, that's enough. Or, they're going to be somebody who just basically needs a restring and a tweak and they can be on their way so I can keep things open. That's been nice. I do have to say my software, I may change my actual appointment software soon. I'll keep a similar kind of idea. I think the actual company is the one that's driving me a bit nuts. But I have,
It, Danny
yeah.
West is asking what software you're using.
Oh,
Um,
it's called Appointed with two D's on the end, which
what
is
a
a company
great
based
name.
here in the UK. Yeah. Um, I don't. They've there have been a few hiccups with them, but they're all right. I'm sticking
Yeah.
with it for the time being. It's more a case of I'd have to go through and reprogram everything and do the colors and put it on the website and get all of the words. So, they get like a reminder 24 hours in advance. All the check boxes, all the things you have to go through. I have to program all that stuff in the first place. So it's a bit of a ball ache, but then once it's done at least.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I suppose the way I look at things the most here is I kind of have the what I call the Asian categories. So there's four things I look at: organization, automation, communication, and dedication. which is
does that spell something? I
I
feel
don't know.
like it should spell
Oh,
something.
I'd have to rearrange it.
All right.
What can I do? OACD or something?
Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll work on it. Needs to be an acronym, I feel. But
Yeah,
so like all of that stuff, I mean, it's it's key. Like I don't know how I feel weird because I missed it my entire career. Like I thought all that stuff was just like, yeah, we'll put this over here and I'll just focus on painting the world's best grain line. You know,
yeah.
like it was
It'll just
not a
be
very good idea.
a
Led to burnout. Um,
yeah.
so you're what kind of jobs are you taking on there? And did I just interrupt you? I felt like I interrupted you to make a joke
No,
as you were
no, no.
making a really good
It's all
point.
good.
Um, what kind of projects are you taking on there? Is it all comers? Are you leaning electrics? Are you leaning acoustics? Are you leaning like
Strings.
strings?
Yeah, I just do strings, a whole variety of strings. I do limit some of the jobs that I do, um, as it's both a time issue, um, to some degree a money issue. Obviously, we do have high overhead, so doing major work in a central London location, nobody does the big grocery shop in the middle of town, right? It's going to be
Yeah.
expensive. So there is some limitations there. I don't really do much in the way of orchestral stuff at this point. I'll get the occasional violin or something through, but no more double basses or cellos or anything like this. Um, and the type of stuff I do is now limited fairly as well. I mean, I've already mentioned that I don't do spray work.
Yep.
Obviously, anyone who's done this stuff knows how labor intensive and time absorbing it is. So even if I could have a spray booth, I probably wouldn't be able to do that stuff. At the moment, I am actually not even taking on. I know, I'm going to get some shit for this. I'm not taking on any refrets or headstock breaks.
Mhm.
I know. I've got a little bit of jit from people over that one, but it's required to keep things moving. I will outsource quite a lot of work in this case. So spray work, there are people in the UK that I can use for spray work. Refrets and things like that as well. Fret work, okay, I can do some of that, but full refrets has been a little bit limiting. What I do is I try and grade the jobs into low stress, medium, or high.
Mhm.
So the bigger the job, I'll have maybe 10 spots open a year for sort of major restorative work. And then medium jobs, I'll probably do a few in a month. And then the day to day turnover stuff, yeah, just keep it rolling over, keep it rolling over. Again, to keep things moving, both turnover and keeping liquid for the business, but also to help people. So if I have 10 people waiting for their stuff while I have one person waiting for their thing, nobody wins. It ends up taking too long for me to finish the long job. And then everybody else, the other 10 people are waiting for their small or medium jobs, are also pissed off. So I try and focus on what is achievable, both for me, for the customer, for, I guess, to keep everyone happy. I won't take on things that I can't deliver in a timely manner because it's a big city, people stressed out, and also in top quality. If you can't really do anything, I'm not one to chuck out shit work.
Mhm.
So, which I think is a good idea in any profession. But I know there's people out there that don't agree with me. They'll happily just slap it off to the side. Probably no one in this chat here right now, but I do
Oh
know
no,
certainly people in and around.
company excluded, of course. But
Yes,
the although I spent much of my career as a pretty raging alcoholic, so I don't know what actually happened for most of it, but
anything could have gone.
some people tell me it was good. I don't know. Trust them. But
Yeah,
but the uh I wonder, so do you I always wonder, you know, like with YouTube and stuff, like is there an end on the horizon to the output jack repair? I just or are people that live deep in cities just so absolutely useless in the third dimension that they'll never fix their own output jack? You know, like
I don't
there's
think
no
people even know how.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just like it's two wires. It's
What was
on
the
YouTube.
was it yesterday I got one and I haven't seen this before. I have to look at it again. It's some new Seymour Duncan product.
Uh
Um, that's like I think it comes as a kit and it's a solderless. I think you wire the pickups in and it's
uh
pre-wired to the switch, but you have the solderless connectors.
yeah.
It looks like you have to solder the grounds on.
Uh
I was a solderless connector that you have to solder. So I don't know. There are some curious ones in there, I think, to try and help people. But usually, what happens is it gets confusing, and then I mean, input jacks. There's probably I don't know 2 or 3 of those a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What just out of curiosity, numbers on that? What are you getting for an output jack? Like somebody
Ah,
comes
25
in,
bucks.
25 bucks.
Yeah. Fiver
All
for the
right.
jack, 20 bucks for me to like take everything apart and put it back in.
Uh-huh.
I've got enough cheeky cheating tools that I can get most of them done pretty quick. Doesn't matter if it's a hollow body or a strat or something like that.
So
So
is that something that you'll do on as it checks in,
yeah.
or will you put it in queue and then
Now, if I can do it in the 15 minutes, I do it in the 15 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's easier for everyone. They don't have a repeat trip, so they don't have to like take time out of the day to
Yeah.
come back. They're happy. It's done and dusted.
Yeah.
I'm happy because I don't have it crowding up the workshop with something simple. And then yeah, done and
Yeah.
dusted.
Cool. All right. Craziest customer interaction there. What's the you got any
Ah,
that you can talk about?
ah, I just had a brain jam up there, Ian. What's the
We can
most
come back
fun?
to that. We can come back to that. Like I
Okay,
just like I've got a couple from my
I
New
tell you
York
what,
days that I couldn't I saw behavior I could not believe came out of an adult. But
there was there was one couple weeks back. Now this was actually I have to be on a caveat here. This was actually a colleague of mine in his shop. A woman came in. He's a double bass player. That's not for sale, but he's a double bass in the shop. And I think she'd been wandering back and forth, coming past a few times, and had seen it. And the shop was there, so he came in and said, "All right, yes. Oh, is this for sale?" He said, "No, it's not for sale. Sorry, it's mine." Said, "Oh, all right." And she had some crazy idea. She wanted to put airplane wings in it. So she was wanted to know, and then she was asking what it would sound like.
wait a second. Airplane wings like coming out of like
I
the
think just
ribs or
coming out of the base. So she
yeah.
wanted some idea of actually putting the airplane wings into the base. She didn't want it to fly, but she wanted it to be in there.
Uh-huh.
But then she was, you know, what do you think that would sound like? You tell me. I
Uh-huh.
that's about the most insane thing I've ever heard. But in terms of around here, gosh, yeah. I mean, we do get the grumpy people. We get the crackheads. We get the kind of the wild and wacky stuff. We get. I've had a few people try and get violent, I suppose, in the past. So it
Yeah.
happens. Um, Usually in the wrong. The last gentleman who tried that with me, he brought a couple of his heavy lads with him, kind of stocking up and this sort of thing, and
Uh-huh.
he wanted his Telecaster back, which he hadn't paid for. So I think he thought he was going to get it for free. Um, and I don't know what he told them, but I think as I kept my calm, and it was just sort of like, listen, like, no, man, like, you're not. This isn't gonna work. And so one of the guys stood by the door. The other guy stood next to him, trying to intimidate me. And then as the story came out, I think his two lads were kind of realized they were in the wrong. I think he must have told them that I was some kind of psychotic nut job
Uh-huh.
asshole or something like that, and that we needed to so they needed to sort me out. And when the story came up, that actually transpired that he just didn't want to pay for it. I tell you, the guy by the door was itching to get out. He couldn't wait to leave. He was just like, "I want none of this. I want none of this."
Uh-huh.
Nope. Um, I've had people show up who don't know where they are. People who like actually don't know where they are. Like they actually they've come to the door and they're not sure who I am or what I do or where they are on the planet. So I suppose there's I keep a some of my favorite emails and client ones. I have an insanity folder on my desktop where I store the insane
Oh,
requests or insane
that's
stuff in there.
that's a good point. I mean, you must have to like catalog the people that you're not going to do business with again.
Yeah,
Do you have a way to do that
yeah.
in your
And
automation?
actually, both in the appointment system and emails. So I don't block the emails, but I tag them so that if somebody does try and get in touch or try to ask something, I had someone earlier this year who what was he complaining about? Oh, yes. He was really, really upset that there were fingerprints on the bass tuning keys of his Squire.
Uh,
Like livid. He was absolutely furious. And I said I could wipe them off. And no, that wasn't good enough. So in the end, it's simple. I was just like, cool. I said, I didn't actually. I don't charge. I was just like, fine, that's. I mean, it was a setup as well, $60 or something. We did
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Fine. We do good work. And as it transpired, he'd taken it somewhere else. This is probably about a year ago, and then yeah, earlier this year, he said, "Ah, took this somewhere, and this person's done horrible work, and you've always done really, really nice work." I was like, "Hey, you realize that now, don't you?" Sorry, you can't come back.
yeah.
That's it.
That's good.
You don't. Yeah, I don't. I'm thankfully in a position where I don't need to beg or hunt down any work, and I don't need to deal with people like that. So I've had some pretty interesting ones, I guess, over the years. I mean, it's been I've been doing this since I guess about 2000, give or take. Yeah, in and around there. So there's been a rolling one. It's definitely, I don't know what you guys said about people have been finding. I find it's a lot more tense and difficult and challenging with people now than it was even 10 years ago. I find people are definitely more edgy. I don't know if the expectations are higher or what they think a repair should be, or you know, say for example, to use headstock brakes, because I'm not doing them right now, but there's the two kinds of headstock brakes. It says, look, we can repair it. That's fine. We can repair it. You can have it back, and it's going to be $300. If you want it to go away, if you want to see that, yeah, it's $800. So I think there's a little bit of confusion in terms of I think what people are expecting in this case. And again, this is what helps when I can actually either emails are great, but when I can interact with someone one on one and show them what there is, what the difference is, and explain what we do and how we do it. Again, that actually seems to really really help. At least mitigate the fury that can sometimes crop its way up.
So the fellow that works with you, is he your employee? Is he at a independent contractor, as we call him here in the States, or
Independent contractor. So
cool?
Gary
So
does a lot of work with both tour work, band work. He works on a lot of the West End shows here in London as well. And in between that, he's in here. So yeah, I basically hand him a bunch of jobs. He sorts them out, and then we work on something similar like tattoo artists and hair salons, things like that. So he basically rents the bench space. I've got work for him. He rents the bench space. He can do what he likes on the bench. So I mean, if he's got his own projects or something he wants to do there, that's fine. I basically take a percentage of the shop work that he completes, and then that pays towards the bills and everything else that we've gotten here. Helps keep people happy.
yeah, how long you guys been working together?
8 years, 9 years. I think it's
Oh
probably about
wow.
9 years actually now.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
haven't had like a string of characters through there. Like, did you have anybody before him, or do you have any like bummer experiences having somebody working in there?
Uh, one or two. I've generally been on my own. I was the guy working with other people before.
Uh-huh.
So I was learning there, and then I have worked with a few stellar people. Well, Gerald, Vintage Instrument Workshop, I mentioned before, top dude, really knows his shit. And yeah, good guy. Focused, detail oriented, everything you could possibly want. I did work with a guy who was great with people, pretty good technician, bit of a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
Uh, so that could get a little bit hairy sometimes. I didn't have him for it was less than a year. He was around because he could cause almost as many problems as he solved.
Uh-huh.
And then after that point, yeah, it's been pretty much Gary since then, who is yeah, proper grafter, hardworking guy. Again, sorry if it gets lost in translation.
No, that's great. I'm gonna start referring to people as that. I hope they understand what it means. Andy Charles, are you there? Andy Charles.
Oh, has Andy made it?
Yeah, he is. So what do you think? How is this
Sorry, I'm
what's that?
kind of driving too.
Oh, you're driving?
I'm out on a bit of a drive listening to this, so yeah, but I have made it.
You
Hey, hello.
you wanna pop in for a question? You wanna ask a question? Might be missing
That's
him.
okay. Maybe he might be on the road. Maybe he can't speak.
Yeah. Yeah, focus on driving. He's probably got the family in the car anyway. If anybody has any questions, feel free to pop into the chat or unmute and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of like like we have OSHA here, which is always crazy, but I know you got tools in there with the potential of making dust and stuff like that? Like even beyond spray booths, do you have like inspectors come in here and get up your ass about like dust and
No,
no?
no.
Okay.
I don't know if I should or not, but I have not had anyone come and check. The only thing they seem really up their ass about is waste management.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's the one that's really, really tricky. I think the local government doesn't. They want to look at things that they can make money out of, and waste management is such a thing. But things like
Uh-huh.
dust and stuff like that, I don't have a dust extraction system. It is the one room. It probably takes up about a third of the room if I put it in here. But I do very religiously, and I mean a lot, keep things clean. I have had people come in who doubt the authenticity of the workshop because it's not messy enough.
Uh-huh.
But I can't stand it. You have got to be on the ball. You've got to be absolutely efficient, know where everything is, keep it clean, keep it on point without fail. If I have to spend 40 extra minutes sorting out something that I could be working or turning profit from there, or worse than that, hunting for tools. We've all done it. I mean, it still happens sometimes, but
Uh-huh.
I know where all of these things go, where they're supposed to be. If there's something missing, I know what's missing. I will destroy whoever has taken it and not returned it.
Uh-huh.
There is, I'll move the camera here again for a sec. So there's a gentleman who works across from here who does amplifier repairs.
Uh-huh.
It's
And
a bit of a different situation in here. We have a very
uh-oh.
different
Oh boy.
way of working.
Oh boy.
If it goes lost, if it gets lost in here, it's not coming back. That's it.
No.
It's not coming
Oh
back.
my God. It's like a Where's Waldo for your 6-inch ruler or your
And
whatever
he
you,
knows where everything is. I do not
yeah.
know how he figures that out. Not a clue.
It's my understanding that that'll prevent Alzheimer's because your brain is constantly working to remember where things are at, that it's always in a state of perpetual exercise. So
I'll take that. Yeah. I'll use that one in a few years to come.
uh-huh. So what in terms of organizations, do you have any like unique takes on strategies for small shop stuff? Do you have any like flip top benches or anything
Uh,
crazy?
I do have quite a few StuMac gadgets.
Yeah.
Still
Can we take
stand
a
behind them. I love the StuMac stuff. I mean, it's been, God, I mean, pretty much, I mean, around for as long as I've been doing this. But it's a time saver. A lot of people are just like, yeah, but why do you do? Why do you have this tool? It's a gimmick or something like this. And no, I don't care. I mean, things like, I mean, when they brought out that the N pin reamer,
yeah.
I mean, game changer. That's great. It's an expensive tool, but hell yeah, stupid things like the thread checkers. I do have the where is it? Oh, I don't have the thing up, but the what device with the flip out the longboard
Yes.
comes out. Yeah, that really helps me, especially for positioning things. So any space saving stuff I can do, the majority of it has just been me trying to figure out, for example, like that wall behind us. So it starts from tools I use most often here, going along to tools I use least often on the other side. So in terms of speed, access, things like that, there isn't actually that much, I guess, magic on that particular
Mhm.
side. It is literally a matter of keeping on top of it. Do not waste time. If you need to clean up after you're done, make sure everything's set and ready to go. Know where everything is. And that is really, to me at least, the best I have been able to do it. There's no magic beyond that, like, oh, I've got a special thing that I could use to hold this or do that. It's basically, I mean, well, access, I don't know, things like in front of the bench here, just keeping everything there. I mean, I know it's all in all the drawers and things like that, but there isn't, I would like to give you something easier. I think the easier thing for me is, or the best advice I could give someone if they were starting out would be to say, automate and deal with the business side of the business as best you can.
Mhm.
The more time you can spend working on guitars, first of all, the more happy you're probably going to be. Nobody likes doing accounts, but it really does actually mean that you can focus on the actual business rather than doing that. So, for example, my emails, I have probably about 45 preset responses where I can fill in the blanks where the information is required or add things in. The accounting software is tied into the bank. There are separate bank cards, accounts. I don't have to sort of divvy between what my personal spending is and what the other spending is. The appointment software online, the website, just try to make everything as clear and simple and straightforward as I possibly can. I mean, it's not 100% effective. I mean, that's counting on other people to read that stuff. Sometimes you got to go back and do it, but being able to keep that as a separate entity has helped. At the end of the day, though, it's work. Putting together a website, content, my God, it takes forever. When it's done, it's great. You got to keep updating it, but I suppose that's really what it comes down to. What I'm talking about, sort of like the organization, dedicating yourself to it, automation. In this particular case, outsourcing stuff does help. Getting someone, I can't fit like CNC machines in here, anything like that, as much as I would love to. But there are some people around that I do trust to help me out. I can send them pickguard designs, fretboards, things like that, and that helps. But just trying to be as efficient as possible by keeping the business out of the business. I mean, there's no easy way to speed up a repair. A repair is going to take X amount of time. You can use new technologies and things like that do help, but at the end of the day, still got to do it.
You do have to do it. Do you
Yeah.
do you live in London, or do you
Yeah.
commute in? So how far away from work are you? Are you walking distance, or do you got a
Oh,
train?
no. What? 30, 40 minutes on the train?
Cool. What
It's not bad.
what about marketing? Do you at this point, have you been established long enough that word of mouth covers it, or do you still put something in the local music paper or anything?
No. At this point now, I am fortunate enough that has slowed down a little, which is also good. I don't think I have time to kind of promote. I mean, I would love to be able to put more stuff up on, say, like the Instagram and things like this. Folks do find you through this sort of stuff. I didn't find that it drew in that much business, drew a lot of interest, didn't necessarily draw lots of business in, but there were certainly enough people who would come in who would find you that way. Keeping on top of the website, and annoyingly having things like not just the SEO, but tying things in Google is still, unfortunately, the ubiquitous main one. So hours of operation, having a Facebook established, an Instagram established, a website established, this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think word of mouth still trumps in this case. There's a lot of people out there who will just take the word of mouth from someone. And especially, I mean, look, there's a lot of people in town who charge a lot less than me, straight up. So for someone to say, like, actually, no, this guy's double what that guy is, but you go there and you'll actually get what you want, that counts enormously to people coming in. Getting access into things over time now to a lot of the regular players, both in and out of London, but people coming in, all of the guys doing the West End shows, people who are running studios and doing this sort of stuff. Once they know you, then people are coming and seeing them. I mean, they're like, shit, if this guy's playing Book of Mormon, and he goes to this guy, and he's telling me to go see this guy, maybe I should go see Stairway to Heaven. So they come in. I'm not for everybody. Some people come in, maybe it's not what they need, but most seem to be pretty happy.
Cool. Really cool.
That definitely helps.
Sure. Let's open it up for some questions. Trevor Healy, I know you've got a question.
Shoot.
I'd be happy to ask a question.
If you had one.
Yeah, sure. So
No, go ahead.
I have a multi-person shop, and I kind of direct how people do certain processes. When you were working with another person, did you kind of lead them in a way? I think I came in right around the time that you had started talking about that, having someone in the shop. Were you teaching them, or did they already have some experience? And if you were to take on someone, would you sort of look for, what would you be looking for? Experience, or would you want to direct where they're,
yes,
where things went?
At this point, I definitely would need somebody with experience.
Yeah.
Gary came to work with me having done technical stuff, not necessarily focused with guitars, but he has worked with guitars, music. He's been doing backline tech, Everything from making cables to working with instruments to a limited degree. So we did have some experience, but somewhat limited. I did help him expand a lot on that. That helped. At this point now, where the shop isn't where it's at, if I was going to take anyone on, they'd have to have some kind of experience, not necessarily. I don't need somebody who has a certificate or something like that, as long as they have at least a portfolio. I do get asked a lot, and I mean a lot. People come up, they're like, hey man, I want to work on guitars. It looks cool. And you're like, it is, but it's still work. You know, we don't sit around. I think there's an idea that we're all sitting around all day, you know, holding a screwdriver in one hand, a beer in the other, and just doing this sort of stuff. And it's like, no. Gone are those days. That was maybe 20 years ago. So I sort of say when people come in, I try and direct them to places. There are places in the UK that are great for this. The Totnes School is a great school for that sort of stuff. There are places in London. One in particular actually even has a module in their course on guitar repair, but I'd need someone to demonstrate that they have a basic working knowledge. I can't start going with someone and say like, these are frets. This is a nut. We've got to move a little bit past that one before going there. I do sometimes suggest people, everyone's got to start somewhere. So, and that included me. So I say, well, like, look, if you're interested in doing this sort of stuff and you want to get a grip, try somewhere that isn't perhaps quite as high pressure environment as a major city. I mean, yeah, I spent a lot of time observing, practicing. I mean, I think I probably did, when I was probably somewhere between 20 to 25 refrets, I think, before the person who I was working with at the time was just like, okay, I think you're ready to start looking at a client's instrument or something like that. You know, I've seen what you've done. We've corrected it. The last few have been really, really good work. Take it from there. I wouldn't have time to do that with someone in here, but where are you based?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Ah, all right,
And,
cool.
Yeah, I worked in a city doing repairs, and that's where it is the same experience. You do a certain amount, and you start to realize that, like, okay, I can handle this without the looking over the shoulder or check-ins every 10 minutes. Did I seat that fret right? Did I seat that one right? Is this what you're looking for? So I try and grant people in my shop as much freedom as I can. And then ultimately it's like, how much have you accomplished in a given time? Let's work on speeding up this process. One more question.
Yeah, sure.
One more question. Do you make a nut on the guitar or away from the guitar?
Haha, away.
Good.
Wow.
Grace
Not
Damara.
away from the guitar, but we do obviously final adjustment and fitting. Obviously, the guitar must be included. But yes, generally the majority of the work is done off the guitar.
Cool.
Grace Dameron wants to know why you switched to an American accent when you were trying to insinuate a lazy guitar repair person.
Well, I'm Canadian. I can't help it. Sorry.
Oh, I was a Canadian. Sorry
that
about
must
your...
be my default Canadian guy.
Sorry about your messed up
very
guitar.
Canadian guy. I did do that actually. You're right.
You totally code switched to like a North American accent to demonstrate a layabout repair guy. So
there's a guy I used to work with it's a bit of habit. This guy used to work from Vancouver, Chad.
Chad. Of course, it's
very
Chad.
Much that voice. He was very much. Chad is a bit of a legend around Denmark Street. He did some of the best guitar shopisms, all the classic stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The full on, like the guy who's playing too long and too loud on a guitar. He's not interested in playing. And I watched Chad go over there with some scissors and cut the cable going into the amp. The guy just looked at him saying, that's it. Yeah. So there is, sorry, that's that must be my Chad default. Sorry.
Oh my God, that's great. That's great. I think we all need to channel our inner Chad from time to time around
sometimes,
yeah. So speaking of the getting started, we didn't really do much of the bio stuff. How did you get started? Did you go to school to learn how to lute, or did you just go out on the road with some bands and figure it out? Or
a little bit of a bunch of those actually. Probably I originally started music as a drummer. So depending on your take on drummers, maybe that's musical or not. But we did we did a bunch of stuff like that. I suppose I grew up in a house that had a lot of tools in it, so I was fairly kind of handy. So when things break, I was the guy who would kind of do this. So we're guess 10, 11 years old, and you know it's like at that age, everything you buy is crap. Like, I mean, it's gonna be, it's all right. You don't have any money. You're gonna, but so like the drums got to get put together, the guitar get better. So I was kind of doing a bit of that. And as I switched over into guitar and I started playing more guitar, obviously I was still tinkering with stuff. I ended up doing a lot of bits and pieces, I'd say with half wit, but still around town. This is when I was still in Canada in a place called Ottawa. Um, and then, so I think some of the guys had known me from playing around town and doing some of the work. And then I ended up started to work in some of the shops there. And when I say work, yeah, I was making teas and polishing guitars. And then they would show me bits and pieces and kind of help me take it from there. This is what, 90, 95?
Absolutely ages.
Oh,
Don't do it.
hold on a sec.
You're too late.
I think Andy's trying to chime in. Andy, you're breaking up.
Oh, am I? Is it not good?
I
It's
got you now.
okay. Try it.
Oh,
Try it.
sorry. Don't worry. I was probably just grumbling and the mic's off. That's my fault.
Go
fault.
ahead. Go ahead, Andy.
Uh,
We lose Andy.
I think he was just saying something in the car and picked him up.
First time listener, long time caller. Andy Charles. All right.
Nah, I think he's gone.
Carry
All
on.
right.
I think. Sorry. I don't think I'm in a good
If you
reception
want,
area.
if you got somebody in the car with you, have them type the question into the chat. Grace wanted to know if you know Ian Weston. Do you know Ian Weston?
As a matter of fact, I do. But I've only met him very briefly. Ian Weston, actually his workshop, and I'm not kidding, I mean, it wasn't when I lived in Ottawa, it was before he'd set up. It's actually, I think, less than 5 minutes from my parents' house.
Is that right?
I've been to visit him. Well, just I think the once. I haven't been for some time now, but yeah, seems a good chap. Knows his shit. I'll tell you that. That guy's on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, I do know him, but only sort of saying hello in that case. But very impressive shop.
Cool. Let's see here. Any other questions? I'm gonna start calling on people. So.
Oh, here we are. Oh, sorry, I didn't see the chat there. There was it. Oh, it's great. Hello, Grace.
Let's see. Who can I call on? Daniel Rohr.
Hey man, what's going on?
Distinguished gentleman from the great state of Minnesota.
Hello.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for doing this. I did have one question about your accounting software. Like, if you could just kind of give me an idea of what you're using as far as running your billing and stuff like that. And then I was curious about your dust collection behind you.
Oh, there is no dust collection.
Yeah, no dust collection.
Okay.
I will sometimes hook up the Hoover as the vacuum to the machines, but generally I make a mess and then I clean it up.
Okay, gotcha.
The software, my software is something, I guess, contentious. I chose something at the time, several years ago, that would integrate. So I wanted something that would integrate both the accounting software, which is stuck with Xero at the time, that also would automatically pull stuff from the bank. So everything that I do when I make a purchase with the cards, if I do PayPal, everything like that, it all routes through Xero, and any of the bank transactions, any fees that come through there, all through Xero as well. So whenever I need to go and do that, I do it once or twice a week. I go through and I equate everything, tie in any invoices or anything that I need to tie in there. I don't actually use their invoicing software with people. It seems weird, but I prefer to actually generate my own invoices. And then when it's paid, obviously that is then still accounted for in the software. To be honest, given the chance now, this was before we had more integrations, I would probably use QuickBooks personally now, as opposed to Xero. I think Xero, for a business my size, which isn't that big, it's probably a little bit overkill. There's many features that I don't use, and it can be a little bit too much in this particular case. I'm sure my accountants maybe like it, but yeah. But anything that kind of works together has been hugely beneficial rather than sort of like writing down and actually having to go through and check every single thing. It will, I've just forgotten the word. Not
Integrate.
concatenate. It will join everything together, so it links everything up automatically, which is really really good, rather than me having to manually do it and track things down. Of course, you don't want to spend 5 hours looking for the 15-pound receipt and where that's gone and stuff like that. So this keeps everything on it. If I was ever to do this again, I would absolutely do the same sort of thing. Have individual accounts for everything, all separate from any personal accounts. I know a lot of technicians who start off and they just kind of keep, well, I'll just use my bank account and I'll go this way. No. Do not do that. You are asking for trouble.
Cool.
That's Doug Proper, and one, like probably every business episode that he's ever done has talked about keeping your business account separate from your personal account so that you can see if you're going to wind up living on the street in the near future. But
But just
But-
record keeping in general. Everyone hates keeping records. It seems terrible, but in the long run, you seem to spend so much time doing it. But when you keep super accurate record, I mean, financial records, job histories, customer histories, all of that stuff seems really daunting. But man, I tell you, it saves so much time in the long run. I can see the history of whoever's done what works happened, anything, if there were job notes in that job, everything from that to the accounting stuff, anything like that. If I was to give one piece of advice to anyone starting, any business for that matter, keep all the records. It sucks, but it's great because then, all of that time you spend extra, if you got to spend 2 days looking for something that you can't find, sorting through this mess because a tax man's breathing down your neck or whatever the hell else it is, it's great. If I got a customer saying, you did a job on my guitar and it's terrible, I can't believe, all these strings are getting stuck in the nut or something like that. You'd be like, well, I'm looking here. We haven't done that.
Yeah, CYOA.
Yeah,
That's what the Doug Proper just chimed in. He says he loves LUV keeping records.
Why am I not surprised? Doug looks like probably the most organized man. Doug, you got to be the most organized man on the planet. I do not know how you managed to run that massive place, but hats off to you, sir.
Well, the secret, he confided in me. He told me he just never leaves. He's constantly there.
I'm no different.
So yeah. Doug, do you want to say anything? You want to pop in and say anything about all this record keeping stuff? You want to expand on it?
I think Kevin's right on the money. I think I second the notion that if he were to do it again today, that he would use QuickBooks. I think.
Oh yeah, Doug's got a QuickBooks logo on his jersey.
But the whole idea
All right.
of just keeping records, I can look up the serial number of any guitar that I've worked on, going all the way back to 1986, and it's as far as CYA stuff is concerned, it pays for itself.
Yep.
Um,
Couldn't agree more. Yep.
But yeah, I think it's a wonderful interview, and I think your new place looks awesome.
Oh, thanks, man.
How long you been in the new shop now?
When did we move? After the pandemic, it's probably about 2.5 years, 3 years, something like
Okay,
that.
it's been that long. Okay.
Yeah, I've had to
Did
move
you-
a couple of places on Denmark Street, but this is the latest one. So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so in New York City, like in order to get commercial real estate to do guitar repair, you have to be in with a landlord that thinks it's an important part of the community. Otherwise, it's going to be an Arby's or something, like it's going to be a chain store. Do you
Yep.
have a relationship with your landlord there? Or no?
I think it's because it's, I'm a bit fortunate, although it is pricey, it is on Denmark Street, which has quite a long connected history with music, not just guitars, but music in general. So that makes it a little bit easier. One of the biggest problems I have setting up a workshop, and I don't know if anyone else would concur in this case, is finding, I guess, or a landlord maybe in New York, or the type of property that will allow that. I know my limitations here in looking around were, so okay, let's say I need to set up a workshop. Okay, great. Now there's plenty of workshop spaces in London. There's a lot of people who will lease you space within, say, like a warehouse. So they'll have a warehouse workshop. They'll have loads of machinery, huge machines, small machines, wood machines, metal machines. You can choose the type you want because not many people have access or spaces like this. So right, you can go in and you can, I don't know, make chairs, do guitars, do jewelry. You can do a whole variety of things, and they give you this space. One caveat: no access to the public, no public access. Right. Well, that's not going to work. Okay, so now we need somewhere they can do public access. Well, then I mean, there's plenty of office space. There's office space falling out of pockets all over the place here. Can't make any noise. Right. Okay. So where can we make noise? Where people can come in and have regular access? Ground floor commercial space. Well, that is the premium of all commercial spaces. So it is really difficult to try and find spaces that will allow you where people can come in, where you can make noise, where it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. And I'm sure it's a common problem actually in a lot of sort of particularly Western countries where that's getting really, really hard to do. And I know in here, our lease here is for another couple of years, I think at least. At that point, we'll have to see. I'm about 50-50 if I'll actually be able to stay here, or I will have to look elsewhere again. I have a feeling that the rent is going to take another massive leap upwards. So
Is there any point where you're just like, like London's, I gotta make an egress from London, or you pretty dead set on staying in London?
it's hard. It's home.
Yeah.
So the idea of leaving isn't not super enthusiastic about it, but I know people around are doing it. I don't know if Simon's here. There's Simon from 81 Guitars. I think he's down in Maidstone. He seems to be having a really good go of it. I mean, he seems to be putting out some really, really great stuff, really good quality work. He seems to be doing it pretty successful. So stuff like that gives me a bit of hope that I don't actually have to be directly in the city, but I wouldn't be the only person getting chased out. So
Yeah.
there are definitely a lot of folks. We've got a weird turning point here between both the overheads in terms of rent and being able to afford it. And I suppose a lot of the guys here who were doing it have retired. So we do have that one as well, where they're just like, I can't be bothered doing this anymore. It's too much. It's too crazy. So there hasn't been a lot of new stuff opening up in that avenue as well. So it'll depend if the market can take it. If people in London can afford it, then I can stay. If they can't, I can't stay, but there'll be a lot of other people who won't. I mean, that's not just going to be musical instrument repair specific. That'll be, I think, across the board. And there is only so many coffee shops that you can open up in an urban environment before we're overloaded.
I think New York is dealing with this. It's creating kind of cultural deserts in places where the only people that can afford those rents are, chain stores and whatnot.
Yeah,
and
I'd say exactly the same as here. Yeah,
which will probably ultimately drive down rents because I don't think anybody wants to live in a cultural desert. I mean, some people do, but I don't know. Like when I go there,
going anywhere.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. When I go there, I'm just like, who lives like this? Ugh.
Well, to give you an idea, everyone is always chasing and one-upping, and this goes back to the chiseling I was talking about, for example, earlier. So to give you an idea, our local authority here, we kind of call it legislated shakedowns. So for example, if I want to put my rubbish out, I have to put it out at certain times. I have to use their materials in order to put the stuff out. So for example, if I want to, and of course it's crazy. So if I want to buy a roll of bin bags, that's $100. If I want to put recycling out, you have to put stickers on the boxes that say, blah, 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 local authority stickers. That's $130. I'm trying to do the pounds to dollars in my head, but I think it's about $130 for a roll of stickers. Keeping in mind, we already pay the tax. So that's on top of that. So you pay a tax here to have a business on top of the rent, which is actually usually almost what the rent is. And then on top of that, you pay for the services. And I've tried asking them. I was just like, so what does the rates or the tax that you charge us actually get us? And they're like, well, it gets you the services. And I pay for the services. Oh, yeah, but that's because and then you get a sort of runaround. So it is kind of a chase in terms of the people in the cultural void. I mean, I've worked in and around the Soho area in London now for, pretty much about 20 years. And it has changed indescribably, but it doesn't seem any signs of slowing down or stopping or people getting tired of that. So I've got to use that as my working base and sort of say like, okay, like yes, at some point I'm not going to be able to be here. I mean, most folks aren't going to be able to be here. Doesn't matter if it's guitar repair or something else. And at that point, I'll see what comes next.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's happening in a lot of different places than just London and New York too, which is it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Oh yeah.
But you know, like
you
it's
can imagine there's a ceiling on it, right? You think there must be an end to this.
well, I mean, in terms of like say people are playing guitars and then there's nobody to fix guitars in their neighborhood. You know, guitars just become disposable. You know, like that's the thing. You know, their guitar breaks, they buy a new one on Amazon, which
There is
I
an
suppose.
argument for that.
Well, I think it's a terrible argument and a short-sighted argument and kind of a gross argument, but
Yeah,
yeah, but
I agree.
you know, that's the way it goes if we're gonna, you know, keep going down this road. So
I put an article up on my website, which is somewhat well written, not great, but I tried to try and help people in terms of understand what they're buying, which also helps in terms of the repair side of things as well. And it's not necessarily information I think people want to hear, but what your money, I mean, we all probably are aware, what your money would buy you 10, 15, 20 years ago obviously doesn't go as far as to what there is now. So the fact that you can still buy a guitar for $300 versus a guitar $300 from 10 years ago, it's drastically different now. And it's actually much harder to work on because of that cheapness. I mean, you know, you get these cheap guitars and you can't keep the frets in them and you can't do any, so you end up spending more on a cheap thing than you do on a nicer one in some cases. And trying to help people understand what they're getting. I mean, basically it boiled down to is like, look, the breakdown is sort of like $400 or $500 is now, that's an entry level instrument. It's not $150 anymore. Versus obviously the cost of repairing it somewhere like this, that plays a bit of an influence as well. So it's difficult and it's challenging to do, but I think it's something it's worth people knowing or understanding what they're getting. I mean, we probably all still get people who come in, they're just like, it's a guitar, I don't know, what, $60? You know, what's the difference? I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, what's the difference between, you know, like a nice dinner in a nice place and McDonald's, right? I mean, it's all food. What's, you know, who cares? But so I guess sorry, I'm meandering here a little bit, but
no, it's all right.
understanding, trying to help people understand that, and then what they can do. My biggest concern is it would go the way of television repair. I mean, how many television repair people do you see? So at this point now, I think that's an extreme reaction. Just before anybody goes but people aren't emotionally connected to their televisions usually, whereas they're maybe a bit more emotionally connected to a guitar.
I got emotionally committed to my last television that quit on me after like a year. It was a bad emotion, but I was committed to hating the brand and never swearing to never buy it again. So, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm sorry to interrupt you with that nonsense.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a good one. I find it's a case of sort of like if the majority of the goods come so cheap that it's not cost effective to repair them, then you won't have people doing it. And I think that's something I've seen less people in the UK doing it. And it is a hard thing to do to provide a quality result within that price bracket. I mean, obviously people are still buying nice guitars, but I think 9 out of every 10 guitars sold in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, I think the figures I was reading, are still less than £500, which is normal. I mean, that's what most people buy. Not everybody's going to be able to run out and buy a Gibson Les Paul Custom. Nor should they, depending on what they want. But if it becomes the same kind of price to replace as repair, people aren't going to start doing that. And that's something else that I think is interesting to the industry as a whole, but is particularly relevant in high cost of living areas and stuff like that as well. So that's something else that I have to think about, but that I also try and help other people with. And then of course you have the same sort of thing, like, well, okay, I can get it repaired cheaper, but it's a 2-hour train ride with a $85 return ticket, and these sort of things keep coming around, then it's also not effective. So I don't like that personally. I prefer to repair things when possible. I hate seeing things go in the bin, just as a general rule in my life. So both myself though and Gary have noticed, particularly over the last 4 or 5 years, an enormous increase in cost or decrease in type of quality. My prime example, I say with a lot of people here, I don't know what the prices are in the US. I raise most of the guitars, maybe US and Mexican. But I say to people like, look, you used to be able to buy the Mexican standard, say Strat or Tele here, about 7 or 8 years ago was £400. To get a guitar, you can still buy a £400 guitar. It's a Squire now, but you can still get one. I think they're all right. To be fair, I think it's great that you can actually still buy a half decent guitar for £400. That's fantastic. But if you want a guitar similar quality to that guitar 7 or 8 years ago, it's £1,000 now, straight up. That's what it's going to take, which is then worth investing in. But as we find out, everybody has the money to be able to invest in £1,000 guitar, even if it is a Vintera series or something like that right away. And yeah, I'm sure we've all encountered. I've certainly seen in the group, and obviously there's various quality control issues and things like that pop up, and they're not necessarily even £1,000. They could be more. So it's out there.
I was just on the forum today.
Put a positive spin, yeah.
I was just on the forum today telling somebody to throw away a $5,000 Gibson because the curved tone bars were coming loose on it. And I was like,
really?
Yeah. I mean, well, it was 2015 and Gibson was putting, I don't know why they thought they were going to put curved tone bars back into guitars. It was like, it's like like it's part of the reissue. Like, it's just crazy.
Let's reissue bad ideas as well as
let's reissue a bad idea. So
we'll start seeing the MK series coming back. Sorry to anyone who likes the Gibson MK series acoustics, but
yeah, those are a real hot item. But yeah, it's throw it away. Throw it away. Like, because I don't know, I'd charge probably $4,000 to take the back off a dumb Gibson. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's see here. I'm gonna start calling on more people.
I've actually managed to pull over now, so I'm parked up. Who's gonna?
Hello.
All right, Andy Charles.
How you doing, Andy?
I'm not too bad. How you doing, Kevin? You all right?
Grand. Cheers, man. Yeah, sorry to make you pull over.
No, it's okay. I've just come out for a bit of a drive out, so I can do this in the quiet without getting screamed at. Yeah. You've kind of touched upon it anyway, like being in Denmark Street. I remember hanging around there in sort of like 2002 when I was at college.
Yeah.
And have you noticed, like, obviously the change in Denmark Street and thing, has that impacted your business and, like, obviously the costs of rent and things, I think you were saying earlier, has that changed things much? And with the increase in the prices that you've had to give, do you think people are still expecting, like they are for some reason in Birmingham, that we're going to do setups and repairs for the same prices that we were doing them 20 years ago?
Absolutely get that. I think that's a universal feature. I don't think it depends. Any country's probably dealing with that one. But yes, I do have that.
Yeah.
Can people compare my prices to people who are in I don't know, like, oh yeah, I found someone who'll do a setup in Liverpool for half the price. I'm like, cool, get on that 5-hour train journey or something like that. Like, you know, but
yeah.
Yes, there is still an expectation of that sort of thing. Despite the cost increases in the instruments, there is still that sort of thing. I think one of my favorites. I had somebody recently imagine he was on his way to play a show at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, who got the wrong end of the stick. He actually thought my electronics repair on his bass was $5. He thought it was $5. No, it's not. It's not $5. Why would you even ask that? Of course, it's not $5. Yes, it wasn't even that complicated. It was a switch replacement in his bass. He needed to get it going. I looked after him, sent him away, that sort of stuff. That was fine. It was actually still only $35, but he was a bit put out because it was more than, for considering the price of a beer is more than $5. I did find that was so. Yes, that is definitely something that is still everywhere. I think that's something that the perception of repairs in general, not just guitars, but televisions or whatever. Well, nobody fixes them anymore, but repairs in general, I think people don't understand well what it is, and that ties back into what I was saying earlier about actually having people come into the workshop, meet me or Gary, see what we do and how we do it. be able to walk them through what the repairs need, why it's good. They have an understanding of why it's going to take that long. They have an understanding of why it costs that much. You know, a lot of the time people, you're on Instagram, right? The video is 20 seconds long. Looks really easy. I don't understand. Why are you charging me $500 for this? And then so when they're actually in here, so well, this is that goes in this stage, this process, and that. And again, that one-on-one really, really helps. I actually do not take on guitars that I won't accept shipments. I don't send or receive any shipments. I don't do anything. Everything has to be done here in-house, which is, I guess, unfortunate because it is a major city center that I'm able to do that. But if I can't work directly with the person, and that all the way back to just actually being able to see them play the instrument and how they interact, I don't do it. I'll flat out refuse.
Yeah. Do you find then that being on, you know, hallowed ground as Denmark Street kind of is, you know, that helps with getting the right kind of clientele in and whatnot? Does it remove or does it, I was going to say, does it actually add more problems that, like, because everybody wants to go to Denmark Street? So
it's no, it does not help with the type of people and whatnot are coming in. Well, I suppose to some degree, you'll get the two extremes. You get the people who have had to. You get a lot of wealthy people in London, so that's great. They're not fussed. Or you get the people who've just had their kitchen redone, and that cost £8,000. So, like, you know, the guitar, they're like, yeah, great, that's fine. And then you get the folks who willfully do not want to accept or understand that's what it is, and that's okay. I tip my hat, say all the best to you, man. You know, I hope you get it sorted, and I'm just not going to be able to help you. There isn't a lot I can do about that, but it is. I don't think being on Denmark Street, it gives me a lot better footfall, a lot better access, a lot more people, but not necessarily any better in terms of the clientele. If anything, it sometimes seems even more demanding. But I do hear this from my colleagues around the country. Doesn't matter where you are, and like yourself, where people are just sort of like, "What do you mean it's going to cost? You know, yeah, I don't know, more than $50 to fix my headstock break on my Les Paul." I'm like, this guitar's $4,000. What are you talking about, man? Like, yeah. And of course, the other one we get is it's tricky. So, I mean, it's the same amount of time to fix a 500-pound guitar as it is to fix a 5,000-pound guitar. So, no, I suppose short answer to your question, no, it doesn't make it any easier being here.
Yeah.
I wish it did.
Andy, were you going to try to move away from your problems? Was that your
move away from problems?
Yeah, were you going to try to move to London to escape your problems?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know whether I couldn't afford the rent there though. It's insane.
It is compared to, say, 15 years ago, where for $600 a month you could get a workspace. Now it's $3,000.
Kevin, are your rates scaling proportionally to the rent? Do you think over the years? Do you have them going up to kind of keep track of it, or have you had to take it in the shorts a little bit?
I'd like to say yes, but there is no feasible way I could actually raise my rates in line with, say, the cost of living.
What do you suppose so $20 output jack, what would that be if you were to put it, if you were just to scale it proportionally? Double. $40 output jack.
Yeah. And that's not feasible for cost of living reasons, because obviously other people are feeling the pinch as well. But also, there's a knock-on effect. A lot of people want to do guitar taking, and I do actively try and encourage people to get into this kind of thing if they want to, if they're passionate about it. I think it's a cool career. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's a cool thing to do. But there's always people showing up who want to take off the top 20% of your business, all the easy stuff. They charge too little money for it. And you'd imagine, of course, they don't last. Long ago, a colleague of mine that I worked many years ago, he says, look, Kev, always remember, you don't do your customers any favor by going out of business. So if you charge too little and you go out of business, what's the point? And I find that there's usually a constant cycle of people starting up and disappearing because, you know, what's their angle to compete with? Well, they just charge less than the guy next to them. And then the next guy opens up and charges less than the next guy. And the next guy opens up and charges next to that guy. And what you find is, though, the challenge I have is that there's always a cycle. So every single time somebody stops doing it, somebody else comes along and says, okay, well, I'm going to charge very little money and do it. And then by the time they go out of business, there's another person. So I do try and deliver both on, I mean, your reputation is obviously critical in this aspect, but that's again when I show people in the shop and what we're doing, how we do, and that helps too. I guess, how would I put it? You can charge more, but you can't charge absolutely well, super duper high rates. That's not something. So it has become tighter. It has become more of a struggle. That plays back into sort of the efficiency and automation and outsourcing and stuff like that I do as well. Trying to establish working relationships with other technicians and luthiers in and around the country that I use. I don't know. Are you familiar with Andy? You familiar with Rob Fleet? Works down in Rye.
No,
Custom?
I've heard the name Fleet. Doesn't is he the Martin warranty guy?
No, that's Dave King. Rob.
Dave King.
Yeah, Rob used to work with Martin Sims Guitar Workshop. He ran their spray booth for, I don't know, 30 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And he works in a much more remote area. He's just as busy as ever, particularly with the paint and finishing work. I find there's not a lot of people in the UK doing paint and finishing stuff. Last I spoke to him, I think was about a week ago. He's going to do a new fretboard for a 30s Epiphone for me on his CNC. It's great. Send him the board, knocks me up a new one. Excellent. It costs more, but the time it saves me, I can be making more money doing other stuff for people here now, and it moves things along more swiftly. But his spray work, I think he's booking in stuff in October now. So his next available spaces for drop-offs are going to be in October for spray stuff. So there's something to be said for both sides of it. And I guess the focus then in this case is trying to keep it moving, I suppose, is probably the best one. Does that help at all?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting, isn't it? Because like I can't do any spray work where I am.
Yeah.
And finally, John Diggins' grandson has just started doing custom finish work again.
Oh, T-Dog, yeah.
Honest to God, honest to God, that was the best like day experience. Just seeing that message was like, I now have somebody reputable that I can send to do finish work, because people have been asking me like, oh, who would you go to? And I said, I can't recommend anybody because I don't know the quality of anybody's work. And now I can finally like take in jobs, do headstock repairs, and then send it to Toby and do it, so I can open up what I'm able to do again. But yeah, not being able to do spray work in house is an absolute nightmare. But you charge, like we were talking about the money going up, you're charging like per hour almost double what I'm charging per hour, and where I am, that's extortionate. You know, I was telling somebody the other day that I was 50 pounds. Yeah, like somebody the other day I was saying I was £50 an hour, and I think his response was, I thought you worked in a guitar shop, not on a battlefield or something. Like my time in the guitar shop isn't worth £50 an hour at all. So insane. Like,
yeah, it's hard depending on the cost of living. I mean, the cost of the goods is the same wherever you go, though, right? I mean, a 335 is the same price wherever you go in the country. So, I mean, you're welcome to I always say to people, you're welcome to take it to whomever you like. And I mean, there are going to be great people outside of London who are going to charge less than me. I have even had people come in with major restorative work that I've turned down, in the sense of sort of like, I can't deliver this both in a timely and costly manner to you. I would encourage you to explore other places in and around the country. But yeah, I mean, I'll get people who show up, they've moved down here from Liverpool or something like that. And they're just, what do you mean? What do you mean? I was like, look, man, you live in London. You know what's going on. You've seen the prices. You know how much it is. You want a couple of drinks, it's $20. All right. So the fact that I'm fixing a jack for $20 is comparatively there. I think it's just a matter of sort of like, you got to try not let it get to you, I guess, too much. Then stick to your guns. Say like, this is the service I provide. I think I provide a good service, and go with it. And if people aren't willing to get on board with that, then they can't have it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you.
I can't imagine somebody that thinks they're going to darken a door for less than $20. It boggles my mind. Like, I don't expect that, I don't expect.
I've worked in a lot of countries over quite a few years, not necessarily even guitars, but mainly with guitar stuff. I do notice there is a particularly unique mentality in the UK I've worked in Ireland. I've worked in Germany and Austria and Canada. Not so much in the US, but I've got quite a lot of colleagues working over there. It is odd in the sense that I think a lot of people, when they're going out and looking for a service, say in general, beyond guitar repairs, but let's say guitar repairs. So, okay, so most people charging going to be somewhere around the middle. You're going to get some cheap quotes, right? And you're going to get a few really high quotes. You guys may be welcome to disagree with me here. I'd be welcome to hear other people's opinions, but I find that people kind of then have an expectation of what they're getting. So, for example, pay peanuts, get monkeys. So if you pay someone to do a cheap job and you get it back and the job's not that great, well, I paid for a cheap job. You know, if somebody's paying top dollar, they expect top results and they get top results, great. I found in working in the UK, people will search for whatever the cheapest price is for what they're looking for, and then everything else above that is a ripoff.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it exists everywhere in the world, people like that, but I've encountered it more often in the UK than probably anywhere else that I've worked. So, for example, all right, I found a guy who's operating in his grandma's front room in Norwich, and he charges $20 for a setup. So everything above that is absolutely out of the question. I have a colleague, actually, it's probably, well, they've moved away. They were on Denmark Street. They moved away now, actually. And I followed the trail. So she basically took her, I think it was an Ovation, even better, right? I think it was an Ovation, took it to this technician, obviously, looked around, I want to set up, took it to somebody, charged cheap money, did a nasty job, right? Didn't do the saddle correctly, left marks all over the bridge where they were trying to rip the pegs out. It all was absolutely furious. The woman was just like, this is unacceptable. I don't like this at all. This is rubbish. Took it to my friend's shop, went in there, said, thrilled. I love the job. So like sorted everything out, got everything fixed, really, really happy. Gave him 3 stars because it was too expensive.
Nice.
Well, what do you mean? That's the difference.
Isn't the UK culture like you've got a rich culture in ball busting though, don't you? Isn't that like ball breaking like kind of like the national pastime there? Like
yes.
Like nobody keeps anything to themselves. Like if they have, you know, like I don't know, like a lot of it seems like every show I've seen, it seems like things get said that in the United States might, you know, with the Second Amendment being what it is, you know, might turn into a gunfight if people talk like that to each other over here.
But that's
quite
not
possible.
That's not an attitude that's unique to the UK.
No, there's ball busting in Westchester.
I got an email from a guy just the other day, just this week. It said, "Is it true that you only charge $35 for a setup?" Now he sent that to me. My answer back to him, that wasn't even true in 1978. And then I left it at that. So, but yeah, the people for some reason they will search for the lowest cost provider, presuming that it's the same service no matter where they go.
Yeah.
It's good to be able to give people examples. Yeah.
What do you think the source of that is? Is it like just kind of like everybody deals with, you know, kind of like corporate hamburgers all the time, and you're just like, you know, like a hamburger is a hamburger, and I go there and I get a hamburger. I don't know. Like
I think it's perception. I think people I think people just have a perception. They have a thought, or they imagine what they think something should be, and that then just kind of becomes their reality, which requires a little bit of gentle education into why that might not be the case. Yeah. So yeah, that is something that I tend to find. I think people just sort of like, oh, we'll repair it, it'll be cheap. And my classic one is just sort of like, okay, if it's cheap, then why does it cost so much? For example, like, you know, why do the goods cost so much? Like, you know, people say, oh, like the price of this new Gibson it's too much, it's crazy. I was like, you tried making one? Like, how long does that take? You know, how much is your time in this particular case? I mean, you're here because, I mean, let's say a setup, for example. I'll be like, guys, yeah, I mean, you can probably learn to do your own setups. I can show you videos that'll help you with that. I mean, the StuMac Trade Secrets, a lot of places, I direct people to that all the time. So if you want to do this stuff, it's great. You'll probably figure it out. Might take you, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 hours. Or is it more worth it to give you to someone where you don't have to worry about that, pay them for their experience and knowledge, and get it done that way?
And there's no risk of breaking the truss rod. And if the truss rod breaks, it's the other guy's fault.
Then it's somebody else's sort of thing. I mean, obviously, yeah, I suppose But anyway, with a bit of experience, obviously helps. So I mean, for example, like I was talking about the interaction. So I can watch someone's hands and see how they're moving when they're playing the guitar. So they might have asked for a certain type of setup and say, "Whoa, hold on a second here. Let me try changing a few things here." And then you can see particularly their left hand won't be quite so stiff or something. Oh, okay. And then you can show them. Now that is something that takes time to learn. That's not something you can necessarily pick up from a video. But I mean, you can do the same thing with plumbing. I can watch a video, somebody tell me how to hook up the plumbing in my house, but if I've never done it before, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of water spraying around that place the first one or two goes.
Well, you're talking to somebody that had to have his truck towed to a real mechanic after he worked on it. So I'm always I always see it through that lens. Like,
yep,
like
it's worth it.
I'd done a lot of things successfully to my car before that too. You know, but one thing I didn't know, and then it was a catastrophe. You know,
yeah. Changing a spark plug, I got you. Changing the transmission, here you go, sir. Thank you for your help. Yeah, I'm not going to be
even changing a spark plug, if that goes sideways and you cross thread that spark plug, oh my god, you're
good.
You're in bad shape.
Yeah, I do have to ask if anyone has any more questions. This is going to sound strange, but I'm going to have to go and get my train before my train stops running.
I was just gonna say we should probably shut it down and let you get home. It's really late there, and let me just have everybody unmute and give a big hearty thank you to Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. This was awesome.
Thank you,
Kevin.
Nice to meet you all. Hello.
And
thanks,
so
Kevin.
this is, by the way, this is the Luth Along, and this is going 24/7 too. So if you ever feel like popping on and saying hi to any of these guitar goobers, we're always here and able to say hi and stuff. So
I can do that. I might have to leave it on mute. You're talking about the type of UK banter that we sort of get back and forth between me and Gary. There's a, shall we say, fairly colorful industrial language as a regular feature in this workshop.
It can get some spicy meatballs going on here too. We try to keep it PG-13, but
yeah, it's exactly. So I'm trying to keep it down to a dull roll for you guys.
Yeah. All right, take care, and everybody. Luth Long is in full effect, so everybody have a good rest of your day.
Guys, have an absolutely brilliant one. Take care and have a lovely rest of the weekend. Talk to you maybe another time. Cheers, then. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, Doug, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you send me that video?